your parents are the ones who bought this house. They've lived here for over 32 years?
Yep, 32
I'm a good listener.
years. Whenever I'd sleep, I just felt like something was in the corner watching me, and I'd turn and see someone standing in the corner. Play the Ouija board in here on the floor for hours. We didn't know you had to say goodbye.
What the frick did she see?
The first owner,
Unalived himself.
he did in the garage.
I felt like that little girl stuck in that house with the demonic entity, hiding my head under the covers. I told you to get out 3 times before you were able to hear.
I'm standing right next to the garage door, and I'm just still holding the camera there. I'm like, Amanda, what are you saying? And finally you say,
Get out!
hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, we're Mackie and Amanda. I'm Mackie.
I'm Amanda,
and we're the Spooky Boos. So,
you might recognize this room because about a year ago, last month, September, me and Mackie filmed our very first video in this very room. And there's a reason we started in this room. There's a reason that when we started our haunted journey, it was in your home.
Yes, so today, to kick off the next 3 videos of the series about my haunted house, we decided we need to give you guys the full backstory of what happened in my house and basically the stuff I experienced my entire life here that led up to the point of me and Amanda meeting and now digging up my yard.
This is literally like the root cause, like everything that's happened for the last year in your life and in my life started because of this.
This house.
This property, maybe.
Yeah, we don't know. I guess we'll find out, but
this is what we're working on.
I guess we'll just get into it from the very beginning.
Let's start with even before you were around.
Okay.
Like, your parents are the ones who bought this house. They've lived here for over 32 years?
Yep,
I'm a good listener.
32 years. So my parents are the second owners of this house. The first owner, unfortunately,
Unalived himself.
he did in the garage. So what had happened was he was very old and he was sick. He felt like his kids were distancing themselves from him. They had their own families. So he just wasn't in a good place. So he went into the garage, started his car, and never came out. His son then sold the house to my parents, and they did it in a very untraditional way where my parents started making payments on the house and never transferred over the title.
Like, your parents just took over
Yes.
their father's payments of the house.
Yes.
So the title was never in your parents' names. It was almost like a renting situation.
It's in their names now, but like at first it was not. They were just taking over the payments of the house.
It almost seems like they just wanted to get rid of it.
Yes, very, very weird. I didn't know any of that though. My whole life growing up here, I didn't know that until a year ago after I'd been pestering my dad for years about how the house was haunted. And he'd always deny. And
Really?
finally, a year ago, he told me what actually happened. And so...
Did you just hear that tap?
I did.
Right when we start, we've been setting up here for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, getting the camera up, like putting the lights in. That's the first noise I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right when we start talking about the house. They're listening.
I guess I'll tell some of my experiences here that made me think it was haunted when I was little. So this has always been my bedroom, and I hated it in here. Absolutely despised having to go to sleep and turn the lights off because whenever I'd sleep, I just felt like something was in the corner watching me, and I'd turn and see someone standing in the corner and getting closer and closer. And it was just an awful feeling. Like, it felt so heavy.
Did you say just getting closer and closer?
Yes.
Alright, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut for now, but that's gonna come up later.
Yes. So, other than that, there has been many times where I've woken up in the middle of the night to someone standing over me. Whether it was a good spirit or not, there's just always been so many people in here. I'll just start by saying that whatever was in the corner watching me, it always...
That's the third one.
I know.
Like, I smiled a second ago and I was gonna start, but I was like,
yeah.
They're just gonna keep going.
So, whatever has been in here has always been a really heavy, bad feeling. It's different from any other room in my house where you walk.
Oh, yeah.
You walk in here and it feels heavy. Like, you start to feel anxious and just not good. And you walk into any other room and it feels light and airy.
Especially your brother's room.
Yes. Which is
right next to us.
So it doesn't make any sense. Then, where it really started to get bad and go downhill was in 6th grade when my friends and I got a Ouija board. And we decided to come home after school every day for a couple of weeks, come straight to my room. And
you did it here?
In this room, yes.
I didn't know that.
I thought I told you
Maybe
that.
you told me that, and maybe I
really
forgot it.
Yeah, so we played the Ouija board in here on the floor for hours. We never read the rules, so we didn't know you had to say goodbye. So we never said goodbye. We'd take off our hands during the middle of the session, just every single time, and we'd talk to someone every time, the same person.
I was gonna ask, did you guys, like, sometimes, I've never done a Ouija board personally.
Yeah.
I haven't needed to. I talked to them directly.
Yeah.
But could you feel them moving the...
Yes. And it'd say the same thing every time. At the time we were in 6th grade, and we'd ask, like, oh, how'd you die? And it'd say World War II. And we'd say, when did you die? And it'd give the year. And later we'd look it up and it'd match up. And at that time we didn't know what World War II was. So we thought it was, like, completely legit.
Like, yeah, you were talking to a soldier from World War II.
And then by the end of the session each time, we'd all get really scared and stuff would start happening in here. So we'd just take our hands off and put the board up there and stop and walk out.
I looked at the board.
So we did that for a couple weeks until we just decided to stop one day, and my mom ended up just taking the board and throwing it in the trash can, and that was that. But
aren't you supposed to burn them?
Everything you're not supposed to do is what we did. And so after doing that for a while, it just started to get really scary, and it felt even more heavy in here, and I was even more terrified in here. A few years later, I was in here on my phone, and I saw, it's like the first YouTube video I ever watched. It was someone playing a Ouija board. I'm like, oh, that seems, I'm gonna watch it. So I click it and start watching it, and then it all just went downhill. It's like it triggered whatever the thing was that had been here my entire life, but made it way worse.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it got, for a 2-week period, it was a living hell here. Like, so bad to the point where I didn't sleep for like 5 days because every time I closed my eyes, something would grab my ankle and start pulling. They'd grab the sheets and start pulling. They were physically moving things in front of all of our eyes. It was just, there's so much more I can go into detail about, but those are just like, the main thing is just terrible. Like, I'd be crying, and this was only like a few years ago where I'm like, I don't like want to sleep in there. Like, I can't do it. I can't be in there. It was just absolutely awful. After that whole ordeal, someone told me I needed to sage. So I did that, and it seemed like it worked for a little bit, but there's always been spirits in my house. There will always be spirits in my house. So it didn't completely get rid of that issue. So I just went on being scared of this stuff until my friend passed away, like pretty soon after that whole ordeal here. And then I started being able to feel and communicate with him, and that changed everything for me, where I'm like, okay, this is actually really cool, and then led to this. But it got to that point where I wasn't scared of this thing really anymore. So all this other crazy stuff was just happening in my house that we see every single day in our videos. I also found out that my house is built on Native American burial grounds, Native American land. Our entire neighborhood is. And I just wanted to mention the old man. That's like one of the most important things. That was everything that has happened in my room, but there's been so much more growing up in the garage that happened, not just me, but my friends when they'd be out there.
Really?
Before any of this, when we were young, stuff has always happened in the garage. From when my friends would sleep in there, they'd wake up with the surfboards hanging over them, and they saw someone laying on top of the surfboards in the rafters looking down at them. So just so much stuff in there. And besides like the bad stuff that had happened here. So I set down the pink pair of tweezers on the white desk, turn around, look back, they're completely gone for 2 weeks, search my whole room high and low.
Oh, like missing, not even moved.
No, not even moved, just gone. And I was like, what the heck? Until finally 2 weeks later, I'm like, you need to put the tweezers back. Instantly, they're back there. And I'm just going really quickly because there's so much, but just stuff like that. And then we got a puppy named Kaya. And this is when a couple days after we got her, we'd be in my room or in the living room, and she'd totally be playing with something and growling, barking at something in the corner, just totally playing with something.
Kaya, are you drinking your water? Kaya?
What?
The frick does she see?
And up until this point, anytime something like that happened, my dad would be like, well, what do you think happened to it? And I'd say, oh, it's just the old man who lived here before us.
Yeah.
He likes us. It's his house, so he just hangs out with us. He doesn't do anything, like he's harmless, but he just likes us. He hangs around the house because it was his house. This was up until my dad never told me about the man who died here. This is just
You just used to say
this
that?
is just the image I had of the spirit that was here, what he looked like to me and who he was to me, until that happened with Kaya a year ago. And my dad came in because he heard all the barking, and he's like, what's going on in here? I'm like, oh, Kaya's just playing with the ghost. And he's like,
had to tell you.
tell me about this ghost. I told him, and he goes, that sounds like the man who lived here before us, and that is when he told me what had happened to him.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, so now that you're all caught up, that's when I reached out to you to see who was actually here and what was going on.
But I had similar experiences, like going through the same thing growing up, except mine started from before I was able to speak.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about my story, I would draw them. The house that I grew up in had a demonic entity attached to it. If you've seen The Conjuring or like Poltergeists, those kind of movies, I lived in a very similar situation to those people.
Yeah.
So we ended up moving out of the home because it was so violent and so bad when I was around 12 years old. I'm 21 now. And it just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was 19 years old when TikTok came out, and I kind of felt like maybe there's other people out there like me, other people who have had the same experiences. And like my mom, like my dad, they didn't know what to do with their kid.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could help one person who was going through what I went through, it would make everything that I experienced worth it. Because, like, exactly, you put it in a perfect way. Like, it was a living hell for me.
Yeah.
For 12 years, I was absolutely terrified all the time. We moved out of the house and it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this TikTok. I thought I might reach a couple thousand people and I would be able to help someone, and like I'd be able to be okay with what happened to me. I did end up reaching over 5 million people, 6 million people. Well, one of them was you, and you reached out and you told me a little bit about your story in the house. We read our DMs for the first time like a couple nights ago.
And just so everyone knows, when I reached out to her, we said, I'm not giving you any details. I just want you to come over and see what you pick up, because for like my own sake, I wanted to know like if the images I had in my mind were like, I just want to know if it was real or not.
Yeah, well, that was like a lot of like my parents' questions too. And getting to come here completely blind, the first thing I said when I stepped foot in your house was, what happened in your garage?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you were like, what did you just say to me? And your mom was like, what did she just say, you know?
We were freaking out.
And obviously that tragic thing did happen in your garage.
But other than that, like, there's been so many... Just me and my mom have always said the garage has just a weird, like, bad vibe. At night, it's scary. Like, we're scared of it in there.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Especially that one corner.
Yes, so it didn't make sense to us why, if it was just an old man that passed away in there, why did we feel like that in there?
And, like, another thing is, like, this man did take his own life. Like, I don't feel like a lot of people take their own life because they're angry or hateful.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more of a sorrow thing. Like, they're sad and they need help. Like, they're alone. But this spirit in your garage and the spirit that we've been dealing with for the last year since I've known you, he's not sad.
No.
He is resentful and hateful and
Literally
angry.
getting chills.
You literally have, yeah.
My God.
Like, he's angry. And that's why I don't think that, like, I've seen the old man. I've dealt with the old man.
They're two different people.
But this
things.
Yeah, but this thing that we're trying to get rid of and we're trying to get down to the bottom, like, that's the whole point of this video. Like, this thing that we're investigating, and we want it out of your house. Because I want it out of my house.
Yes, and it's like, no matter how many times we tell it you have to go, it
Last night,
leave the property.
this thing isn't a spirit of somebody who lived here. This thing isn't a spirit of somebody who had a good life even, or a life. This is something completely different that we're dealing with.
There's spirit, like Amanda always says, there's spirits constantly going in and out of my house. It's like a freeway. Normal people, which is like, fine, do whatever you want, like, you're welcome here.
No, they're passing through.
But there's bad things that are in the corner of the garage, in the courtyard area, or in the far corner of the living room.
Yeah, they stay in this, I would say it's like 15 by 15.
Yes.
Like, it's the size of a room. They stay in this area. All the other spirits, they travel freely throughout. I've never thought about this. All the other spirits travel freely throughout your home, through your rooms, down the hall.
Yeah.
But this thing that we've been dealing with for over a year, that you've been dealing with for your whole life, since we've been able to chase it out of the house, it still stays in that area.
Yeah. And the only other place it will go is around the backyard right here up to my sliding door. Step foot in this room. It doesn't go out there.
I never, like, thought about it and put it together until that. But, like, you've dealt with this your whole life. I came into your life a year ago trying to help you with it. Like, we became great friends because... Isn't it weird we became such good friends because of this thing?
Yes.
But I spent the night at Mackie's house the other night.
Oh, yeah.
And what room did she put me in?
This room for the first time at night.
Alone. So I slept in here. And at that point, I didn't know about, like, how you just said a few minutes ago. It's like they would creep up and, like,
I never really told you about that or anything.
Well, you didn't tell me a lot about it because
I
asked to go in blind.
Yeah.
And not only that, you wanted me to go in blind because you wanted to test yourself also and make sure that you were picking up right things.
Yeah. So she slept in here. First thing in the morning, I come running in. Did anything happen in here?
It was the earliest you've ever woken up. Knocked on the door. She's like, how was it?
Yeah.
I was like, bro, I felt like I was a fish in a tank where everybody was coming up to see what I was doing. Like they would creep closer to me and, like, they were checking me out. They wanted to know what I was doing, why I was here. And when I was a little girl dealing with those things, I couldn't do anything. Like, at some point, like, your parents... I couldn't do anything. Like, at some point, like, your parents don't want you to sleep with them anymore, you know? So I would be sleeping in my own room, and I slept with my head under the covers. I felt like that little girl stuck in that house with the demonic entity, hiding my head under the covers. And I was so freaked out and so nervous. I didn't even sleep that night.
No, you didn't. You stayed up all night long.
Yeah, at 5 a.m., I was like, Starbucks is open.
Yeah.
I got up, I went and got me and Mackie Starbucks, and I hung out, and I ran into your mom in the morning when she got up. Like,
it's true.
I did not sleep in here. I couldn't sleep in here.
And it's like, you said while you were up working on your laptop when the lights were on, there were a couple people that were, like, fine, but nothing really happened.
Yeah.
And then you turned off the lights and they all came in, and I said... before you even said that, I said, but it's like the second you turn the lights off, they're all here.
And I left my light on because of that.
Yeah.
Like, I tried to turn it off. I was hoping to be able to sleep in here. I hadn't slept, like, the day before either. We were filming. I was like, I can't. I literally cannot turn off the lights in here. I tried to just look at my laptop and get the work done and not even look past the screen because I could see them out of the corner of my eyes and I could hear their footsteps walking towards me, like inching closer, inching closer. Like I said, I felt like I was like trapped in a zoo.
So that's why we're just like, what is it with my room and the garage and just these areas? Because that's the only place the bad things come. And it's like, it's always so easy to tell when something bad is in here because it gets so much hotter. You just get this dizzy, like anxious feeling. It's just, and just heavy. It's so easy to tell. And it's, things in my house change like that.
Yes! And the
So
first...
we're like, what is...
Yeah, no. What is it?
What is it?
So the first time we came over, the spirits like really weren't open to talking to me.
Mhm.
There was a couple of family members and like close friends that I communicated with you and your mom.
Yeah.
So there were people here willing to talk to us. But in your room specifically, it was the first time ever that I used a pendulum.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we caught something on camera.
We did.
Like, those things didn't want to talk to us. And we've always wondered, I've dealt with spirits my whole life. And in the beginning, they weren't good. When I was 12, I stopped seeing demonic things and I started seeing souls, like spirits of people. They're kind. They want to talk to me. They finally have an opportunity to have somebody who's able to speak to them, and they take it. The spirits that were in your house, in your room, and we weren't alone in here. Other people were experiencing it too. The spirits in your house didn't want that. A year goes by, and for the very first time, because we're always here at night filming, I step into your courtyard. And I think that there's something out there. And that'll come into the video later on. Tomorrow you guys will see more about the courtyard. But I told you that I thought that something was back there that I wouldn't want on my own property. And I leave your house, I head back home. We have to wait a couple of days before I'm able to come back, and we're able to tear up your backyard and see what it is. And that night, you FaceTime me, you're in the garage, where all of the bad things happen. And we talking about it.
But remember, we called about something completely different, like our channel related. So we're talking on the phone for a while about this. And then we kind of pause and we're just like, oh my god,
what the heck happened today?
Yeah, what are we gonna do for like digging this up? Like, this is gonna be crazy. What if we upset something? Right at that moment, I'm sitting on the couch in the garage, and right when we're talking about it,
Mackie is on the phone with me. She goes, ugh, and jumps up and runs around, like takes probably 10 or 15 steps and stops. And I can your phone isn't even looking at like yourself anymore. Like you stopped and looked at something, and then the next thing that you told me happened to you. Go ahead, you say it.
Okay, so what had happened was I was sitting on the couch, and it felt like someone went to one side of the couch and took all their power, just went like that, and shoved the couch to the point, it's like on these spring type things. So it went to this side, came back, and settled down back in the center. Something full on shoved this couch with me on it. So that is when I screamed and got up and started running.
Like, I didn't know what had happened.
No.
You just panicked.
Yeah.
And then you told me that, and you asked me, you go, it's a pretty big garage. You go, Amanda, there's something in here with me. And you don't often say things for sure.
Yeah.
Because you feel things, like you're sensitive to them. You felt something was there. You knew something was there. Just beyond the point of it physically touching the thing that you were sitting on.
Yes.
You flip the FaceTime around and you point it to the corner of your garage and you go, what do you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you remember what I asked you?
You said, well, first you went silent for about 10 seconds. Your face went just white. And you go, why did you point the camera right there?
Yeah, I said, what made you point it in that corner?
And I said, this is just where I just feel like someone is right here. Like, I feel like they're right here. My whole body has goosebumps. When I was running away, it felt like they were behind me. It feels like someone is right here.
There was somebody right there. And I don't always see them on screen, Sometimes I do. I don't know why. Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. I don't understand my gifts fully. But Mackie, there was some, I could describe their height to you. I told you everything about them and you saw the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I feel so bad for you. I went silent again. And I go, Mackie, and it cuts out the sound.
Complete FaceTime, all the audio on my side of the FaceTime where I could hear Amanda cut out. And so I have no idea what she said at this point. She says something, I go, what? What'd you say?
And she's still standing there. Yeah, and you go, what? And I tell you again.
Yeah.
And the audio cuts out again.
I go, what? Amanda, what are you saying? And at this point, I'm standing right next to the garage door, and I'm just still holding the camera there. I'm like, Amanda, what are you saying? And finally you say,
get out.
Get out of the... Literally yelled, get out! And so I quick opened the garage, jumped inside the house, shut it, and I was like, what happened?
Like what were you saying? What were you saying?
Yeah.
Every time I told Mackie, because I didn't want to freak you out.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to feed him that fear. Like, I was terrified. You were terrified. Nothing of that was going to help the situation.
Yeah.
I told you to get out 3 times before you were able to hear the very end of what I said. And you get out, you told me that every single time I started talking, and that was the only point at the garage of the conversation. We've been talking for a while. That was the only point in the conversation that the sound completely went silent.
Before you said get out, remember, there's something else you said that cut out that I didn't hear. You said, he's taking steps towards you.
Yeah, I did. I said, because you asked where he is, and he was further back against the thing, and I go, he moved up towards the surfboards. And you didn't hear that at all until I brought it, and I didn't know you hadn't heard me. Like, I was so shocked that you remained standing where you were in the garage, so close to the door to get out. And I'm freaked out now. And while I told you to get out, or when I told you that he was stepping forward, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that you couldn't hear me. I could not, in my wildest imagination, think, why would I tell her that this thing that we're both terrified of right now is stepping towards you, and you stand there and wait until the sound cut back in, and all I said was, get out.
Yeah.
And you run in, you shut the door. Your mom was in the kitchen. She happened to be, she goes, what happened? What happened? The audio cut out. I told you what I said those 3 times I told you to get out. And your mom asks me, like, well, it's not something that could hurt her, right?
Yeah.
And I only told you to get out because had I been you standing in that garage in front of what you were standing in front of, I would have gotten out.
Okay. Do you want to just explain what you saw?
Not really. I don't think it makes a difference on what it looks like.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Alright, so after that whole experience, we're like, this is gonna be rough, but we have to dig it.
That was loud.
Right when I was about to say we have to dig it up.
And that's exactly what happened in the garage when we started talking about digging it up. That had to. I'm going to choose to believe that that was somebody.
Oh, I'm getting freaking chills again.
You literally are. Okay. So I don't even want to say we decided to dig it up.
I know.
But we knew before we went and tore up your parents' backyard, we had to start from the beginning and tell you guys why we're doing this. So this is going to be, is there anything else you want to put in?
No, except for the only last thing would be this thing that we're digging up is right next to the corner of the garage where all this happens.
Right outside of the courtyard where you get the most activity with the lights swinging, the lights turning on and off, where we see things, where when we do
the
live
bad things walking back and forth. Yeah, when we do lives.
When we do lives, people constantly are saying that they see and feel things out there, and that is before we've ever talked about this.
Yeah. Should we start digging? I feel like we need to do it.
I feel like it doesn't want us to, and I feel like we should.
Alright.
Well, this is part 1. This is a 3-part series. This is how Mackie and I met. This is why we do what we do. And it happened to be something super dark that got us into it.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do the investigation on her house tomorrow, We're also going to start breaking up the concrete tomorrow. Maybe we'll... I don't want to start tonight.
I know.
We're going to start the investigation and then dig it up. This is going to be a 3-part series because this is a lot to cover.
It is. I guess let's start.
Ready?
Alright.
Peace. This is sounding so insane, and I know that a lot of what I do sounds insane anyways, whether or not you believe it. This guy used to be a person, and he made a deal with the devil. And his problem is, from the first day he met me, I knew how to get rid of him.
It all slants down into that corner. It's just weird. Like straight to the corner.
That's always where we see him outside. Do you think it's...
No.
Me neither. You know, it's gonna be even crazier. That I'm in the next room sitting where you can't see me, and I'm answering the questions that I see. And I heard you ask that question, and I heard him say, don't.
But first I have to ask, have you seen anyone in the courtyard?
The edge that's, oh my god.
I saw that. Amanda, what was that? Amanda, what was that?
I'm literally petrified. It looks like its head. It had like 3 eyes.
And just hanging like that?
Yeah.
Like to the left of the lantern is where I saw it for a split second.
I still see it. Did you see the same thing?
No, this is